Alright, so today we're going to be talking about Sera and the leadership of heaven, because, let's be fair, I don't think Sera has always been in charge. And of course, you say that we know that she hasn't been, because 10,000 years ago, when Lilith and Lucifer decided to burn down the house, the elder angels were the ones who punished them. But why is Sera in charge now? And is there more to this than what it seems? Well, I would definitely say so, but let's look at what's going on here. According to Pseudo-Dionysus' angel hierarchy, Seraphim are part of the final and highest choir that is next to the throne of God. But unfortunately, they would likely be the least qualified beings to run heaven when you look at their duties and roles. After all, they surround the throne of God, chanting the Shrey Sion, basically, holy, 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 act as agents of cleansing and the preparation of people for God's service, such as prophets. This was done to Isaiah so that he might speak the word of God and know it to be true. And the Seraphim glorify God's holiness, transmitting divine knowledge and love to the lower choirs. All that sounds very nice, but they are essentially God's mouthpieces when the Metatron isn't available, and basically the heavenly musical tour group, if we're going to be completely honest with this entire situation. There is nothing in terms of actual leadership or protection that would make them suitable to be leaders of heaven. And despite what we like to think, there is absolutely nothing about them being more powerful than the other angels in the choirs. So with that in mind, why, for the love of the primal force, will one be in charge of heaven in the Helliverse? Look, love her, hate her, roast her wings open fire for ordering the exterminations, but when coming directly down to it, that is a question that needs to be asked. Why is Sera in charge of heaven? Well, yes, the Helliverse does not strictly conform to the Bible or other sources. Again, as I have to say, it's not 1-to-1 recreation or even a 1-to-100 recreation, and putting their own spin on things, we are likely not going to get any form of answers on precisely why this is happening. So let's speculate, and we might gain a bit of an answer. In the first year of Hazbin Hotel, during the ridiculous court scene that basically amounted to a waste of everyone's time because Charlie couldn't provide the one thing that would make her case work, Sera kept the exterminations from Emily precisely because she thought that since she was older, it was her load to shoulder the situation with Hell and the rising tide of pressure. While trying to protect Emily, who, as the Seraphim of Joy, likely would not truly understand when sometimes a horrible act is necessary, but it harkens back to the idea of the elder angels within heaven's hierarchy who are so, you can throw a plan into the hole that was left behind of them not being around, as they should be the ones dealing with the Hell situation, or even the Speaker of God, who would be the strongest entity in heaven, or at least should be. But instead, even when heaven was threatened by a weapon powered by Lucifer's energies and channeled in a concentrated beam strong enough to break through the barrier shield composed of 7 powerful, high-ranking angels, all of whom seemed to be from various different choirs, they did not show up and they did not take action. But what if I said that that was the point? What if all of this was only a test for Sera? Now, that sounds a bit crazy, but the idea of an angel being promoted is not a strange one. In Hazbin Hotel itself, it can be assumed that both Adam and Abel were both promoted from winter angels to that of archangels, enhanced with great power to lead the exorcist. And I suspect that, if this is true, Emily will one day become the head seraph, dealing with her own issues. But why am I saying this is a test? Well, look at how it works in the world. The qualities of a leader are not something that everyone is born with, and while everyone has the capability to be a leader, the mindset has to be there. But with all things, a person only truly knows who they are when confronted by conflict. Sera's is dealing with the situation in Hell and running the day-to-day operations of heaven, keeping everyone safe. And for the most part, she isn't a bad leader. But as we've seen so far in Hazbin Hotel, she is more prone to letting others sway her thoughts and actions, even in the second year. Even when Adam came with the rules of the extermination as an answer to Lilith's attempted uprising, which is definitely something we need to talk about later, there was reluctance. She did because of perceived necessity, after all. You cannot apply future knowledge retroactively. As far as anyone knew, for 10,000 years, redemption was not possible. There was never a case for it. So trying to say that she should have tried something else based off of future knowledge is a bit foolish. Not only that, but she also rejects the actions of the extermination. But she doesn't reject the responsibility for what happened, even as she has an existential crisis of all the sinners who could have been saved. A leader can only operate in the present and accept what happened and then make amends if possible. As what the speaker was trying to tell Sera, that the only way to redeem herself is to accept what she did and operate with her own voice rather than letting the voices of others lead her astray. Sometimes, even when they had the best of intentions, the Spirit of God didn't rebuke her or outright say that her actions in authorizing the extermination were wrong or a sin, but rather letting others influence her. Without having true conviction or belief in what she was doing was the issue, and it made Sera lukewarm. And if you know anything about the Bible, that is a horrible thing to be. Your faith should never be lukewarm, otherwise you'll be spewed out of the mouth. It is not a good situation, and it's actually rather disgusting. But the problem is, Sera didn't learn that lesson, as when Emily decided to go down to hell with gift baskets to apologize, Sera wisely said that this was not going to work, but still went along with it because more than likely to spare Emily's feelings. But unfortunately, this is again letting someone else make the decisions rather than using her own voice. And then, once the declaration of war occurred, she lashed out verbally.
Sinners like you are the reason I allowed for the extermination in the first place. Power hungry and violent.
Then freaked out back in heaven, having a panic attack.
You made a decision. What's the plan?
An understandable situation, but a crisis that she had to learn from in order to shape her into an ideal leader. And I believe that is what's going on here. Well, of course, there's zero evidence of this, and it's literally the most hypothesis thing I've ever created so far. I think that is a direction that this seems to be going in. That Sera might end up becoming an elder angel if she can manage the situation between heaven and hell. But why? Now, to be entirely honest, the idea of the Elder Angels kind of comes off as a bit of fan fiction, because while in storybook opening it does state the Elders of Heaven, we don't know if that actually means a completely different class of angel or not. But for this hypothesis, we are going to say that it is, at least until we have some more information. The storybook gives us the most information when it comes to the idea of the Elder Angels, and gives us the purpose of angels in general.
Once upon a time, there was a glowing city protected by golden gates, known as Heaven. It was ruled by beings of pure light, angels that worshipped good and shielded all from evil.
Which means evil existed before the creation of the universe, and that after eating the apple, evil finally found its way into Earth. This is a rather interesting way of phrasing things, because either this was meant to be a bit poetic, or that it's the idea that evil was trying to get to Earth anyway. After all, the angels were expanding the universe during this time when Lucifer was deemed a troublemaker by the Elders of Heaven. This would mean that other worlds, other stars, and other places in which evil can exist. So what if the Elder Angels have to contend with that? That's why you wouldn't put a Seraphim, basically a singer, in the position of leadership unless there was a specific reason. Either she's holding the position temporarily while the Elder Angels are gone, which we had no proof of, or she's the only highest ranking and eldest angel available, meant to watch over Earth specifically since it was created. Of course, this runs into the idea that there are multiple heavens on various worlds, and they are controlled by other angels of rank like Sera. But let's not get into that for now, because we'll be here all bloody year. Now, there is also the idea that since Earth, in so many stories, is the anchor of a universe, once evil has spread onto the planet, it basically spread everywhere. Hence, going back to the idea that the other angels are busy fighting against this force whenever it pops its head up. But there's another situation that could explain what's going on here. Not likely, but it's best to bring it up just in case. So, a while ago, we learned that there were other gods in Hazbin Hotel. They aren't like Zeus or Odin and things like that, but instead they're more like primordials. But if you have something like those present, they would also have servants, lesser beings similar to angels, who would be doing their bidding. And if there's one thing everyone who has seen these entries know, when it comes to gods, they get bored and they're always looking for something entertaining. Whether it's creating worlds, destroying them, or having their servants, mortal or otherwise, start endless wars, because why shouldn't they? Life honestly doesn't mean that much to them. But when you have incomprehensibly powerful bored beings running around who are looking for some form of entertainment, if you're the top dog, then keeping them contained would be an immensely good idea, and you'd send out the big boys. You see, it makes no sense for the exorcists to be the only army in heaven. Even in biblical lore, you have the archangels, who are the generals, regular angels who have some combative capability, which are higher than that of Seraphim. You also have the cherubim, who act as the royal guards, but then you have the bloody powers, some of whom are the most insane angels I've ever met. And yes, Hazbin Hotel is not a 1-to-1 or even a 1-to-100 recreation of the Bible, but unless the writers really don't understand that militaries have different levels and branches, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. So what if the other angels, along with the true combat type angels, are all fighting against the forces of other gods, holding the line, only appearing when something occurs on a universal scale involving evil? It would explain why the other angels cast Lucifer and Lilith into hell. It was a large enough issue for them to respond. Then after that, they had to immediately leave again. Now look, none of this is verified, none of this is confirmed. It really is just something that came into my head while seeing Sera's actions throughout the first and second year of Hazbin Hotel. It's a strange situation when you think about it, and it really brings one to wonder why we believe Seraphim, who are basically singers, would be in charge of a kingdom or considered the strongest. And it makes one wonder how you would act in that type of situation. Would you have done better or worse if in Sera's position, and you had an enemy about to attack you? All the evidence says there's no way to deal with them and was presented with a solution. Because after all, hindsight is 2020, and humans tend to judge on that way too much. So should they come with a better solution? Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys next time.